Hey everyone, and welcome back to Speak More Fluently. You know, for this deep dive, we're tackling something that I think we all do without even realizing it.
Yeah.
We're diving into the world of those little words and sounds that sneak into our sentences.
Okay.
Things like, and like,
Right.
I mean, have you ever wondered if you use these too much?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe if you could use them better to actually sound more natural?
Yeah.
Not less fluent?
Definitely.
So that's exactly what we're going to explore today. We're going to break down these filler words, and by the end, you'll have a whole new understanding of how they work and how to use them confidently.
That's the goal.
So let's start with the basics.
Yep.
What exactly are we talking about when we say filler words?
Well, I mean, at their core,
Yeah.
filler words are those short words or sounds that we kind of slip into our sentences, usually when we're pausing to think.
Right.
You know, you're in the middle of a sentence and you need a second to figure out what to say next.
Okay.
So you might say,
Right, the class.
It's exactly the classics.
But it's not just those little sounds, is it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, we're also talking about words and phrases like, well, I mean, so, right, and even actually.
Okay, so a pretty wide range.
Yeah.
And these things, they pop up in conversation all the time, right?
Oh, yeah, constantly. I mean, think about it. It's just a really natural part of how we speak English.
Yeah.
Especially when we're not reading from a script or something.
It's that spontaneous flow.
Exactly.
I know for me, I reach for them when I'm trying to gather my thoughts or,
Yeah.
find the perfect word mid-sentence.
Oh, absolutely.
So the question is, why do we do it?
Right.
Is it just a habit or is there something more going on?
Well, it's definitely more than just a habit.
Okay.
One of the most fundamental reasons we use fillers is to buy ourselves that thinking time.
Okay, so you're saying it's strategic in a way.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
When we're trying to articulate a complex thought or we're searching for just the right word, a little can give us those few precious seconds we need to process.
Yeah, I can see that.
And actually, there's some research that suggests that using moderately
Oh, really?
can actually make you sound more thoughtful to listener.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it can signal that you're carefully considering what you're saying.
So it's not always a bad thing.
Not at all.
It's not always a sign of being unprepared or something.
Right.
What other roles do fillers play in our speech?
Well, they also help with the flow of conversation.
Okay, how so?
Well, if you just stop talking abruptly in the middle of a thought,
Yeah.
the listener might think you're finished.
Right, that could lead to some awkward silences.
Exactly. But a filler word acts like a little signal,
Okay.
like a little flag saying, hold on, I'm not done yet. There's more coming.
It keeps things moving.
It does.
It prevents those moments where everyone's wondering who's going to speak next.
Exactly. And, another thing fillers can do is they can actually soften the things we say.
Oh, okay, how do they do that?
Well, think about the difference between saying it's bad
Okay.
versus saying, I mean, it's not great.
Yeah.
That little, makes this statement less direct.
Right, less harsh.
Right.
It's like you're not quite committing to the full force of bad.
Exactly. It adds a bit of nuance.
Okay.
And in more casual settings, using fillers
Yeah.
can actually make you sound more relatable and friendly to the person you're talking to.
Oh, interesting. So it creates a sense of connection.
I think so. It's almost like you're thinking out loud with them.
Yeah, like you're inviting them into your thought process. So it sounds like understanding why we use fillers is more important than just trying to eliminate them altogether.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, it's about being aware of how you're using them and whether they're actually helping you communicate effectively.
Yeah, because sometimes they might not be helpful.
Right.
Okay, so we've got a good handle on what they are and why we use them. Now, how do we choose the right filler word for the right moment? Because they don't all have the same vibe, do they?
No, they don't. I mean, they all create that little pause or that signal that we're not finished speaking.
Right.
But they definitely carry different tones, and they're better suited for different situations.
So what's the difference between saying, and,
Well, tend to be more neutral.
Okay.
They're mainly for buying time to think without necessarily trying to engage the listener or really soften what you're going to say.
Okay, so just a straightforward pause.
Exactly.
But that feels more interactive.
It does.
Like you're trying to check in with the listener.
Yeah, it's often used to see if they're following you.
Yeah.
Or if they understand what you're implying. It's certainly more casual.
And that seems to have a million uses.
Oh, yeah. Like, theirs is super versatile. It's very informal, and it can be used for all sorts of things. like introducing examples or making a statement less direct.
So, like, for example.
Exactly. Like, for example.
But I feel like hand gets a bad rap sometimes.
It does.
Like, people say it's overused or unprofessional.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, it's true that using, like, too much can be distracting, especially in formal settings.
Okay.
But in casual conversation, it's perfectly fine.
Right. It's about using it in the right context.
Exactly.
What about, well,
often signals the start of a response or a shift in topic.
okay.
It's generally pretty neutral. And it can even sound polite, especially if you're taking a moment to consider your answer.
I see. So it's like you're signaling that you're taking the question seriously.
Yeah, I think so.
What about, I mean,
well, we touched on this earlier.
yeah.
It's often used when you're trying to clarify something or explain what you mean in more detail.
Right, like you're expanding on a point.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So often indicates that you're about to draw a conclusion or summarize something you've been talking about.
Okay, so it's like a transition word.
It is.
Like you're wrapping up a thought.
Exactly.
And moving on to something else.
Right.
What about right?
Right. Well, right is all about engaging the listener.
Okay.
It's a way of checking if they agree with you or if they understand what you're saying.
It's like you're seeking confirmation.
It is.
Like, am I making sense here?
Exactly.
And finally, actually
is a bit stronger than the others.
Okay.
It's often used when you're correcting something.
Yeah.
Or expressing surprise or maybe introducing a contrasting idea.
So it's like you're highlighting something that's unexpected or important.
Yeah, I think so.
This is really helpful. So the key is to choose a filler word that matches what you're trying to do and the situation you're in.
Right.
You probably wouldn't want to use, like, all over the place in a formal presentation.
Probably not.
In those situations, it's better to stick with something more neutral, like well or so.
Yeah, those are safer bets in formal settings.
But in casual conversation with friends,
Right.
can actually make you sound more relaxed and approachable.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious, do you think our choices of filler words change depending on where we are in the English-speaking world?
Well, that's an interesting question. And the answer is definitely yes.
Okay, tell me more.
Well, different regions and cultures have their own preferences for filler words.
So it's not just about speaking English, it's about speaking a particular kind of English.
Right.
What are some examples?
Well, in American English, like, an and ians are super common.
Yeah, I can definitely hear that.
What about in British English? What do you notice?
I feel like I hear well and right a lot.
Yes. And also sort of.
Sorta, yeah, that's a good one.
It's almost like they're hedging a bit.
Yeah, not wanting to be too direct.
Right.
What about Australia? Any thoughts?
And kind of are pretty popular down under.
Interesting.
So you can see how even within the same language, there are these subtle variations in how people use fillers.
It's like each region has its own little conversational quirks.
Exactly.
And I bet if you pay attention to speakers from different countries...
Yeah, you'll start to pick up on these regional tendencies.
That's a great tip for anyone who wants to sound more natural.
It is.
It's like tuning into the music of different accents.
I like that analogy.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the words themselves, but it's not just about what we say, is it?
No, it's not.
Our body language also plays a role in how these filler words come across.
Absolutely. Our nonverbal cues are super important.
So how does something like eye contact fit into all of this?
Well, maintaining eye contact, even when you pause to use a filler, shows that you're still engaged in the conversation.
Right, you're not spacing out or something.
Exactly. It projects confidence, and it lets the listener know that you're still in control of what you're saying,
I see.
even if you're taking a moment to think.
So eye contact is key.
It is.
What about our hands? Any tips there?
Using your hands naturally can actually make your filler words more effective.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, a well-placed hand gesture can emphasize a point.
Yeah.
Even while you're using a filler like,
So it's not just about keeping your hands still.
No, not a...
It's about using them in a way that supports what you're saying.
Exactly.
What about something as simple as nodding?
Even a little nod can go a long way.
Okay.
It shows the listener that you're still present, and it encourages them to stay engaged even during those brief pauses.
So it's really the whole package.
It is.
The words and the body language working together.
Exactly.
And a good way to become more aware of all of this is to practice in front of a mirror.
Yeah, or even record yourself speaking.
Okay.
That way you can see how your body language is supporting or maybe not supporting what you're saying.
Okay, so practice is key.
It is.
What are some exercises people can do to get better at using fillers?
Well, self-recording is a great place to start. When you listen back to the recording, you can identify patterns.
Yeah. Well,
Like, are you overusing certain fillers?
okay.
Which ones do you tend to rely on the most?
Yeah.
And what does your body language look like when you use them?
Right. It's all about self-awareness.
Exactly.
That's another technique.
Another really effective method is called shadowing.
Shadowing.
Yeah, it's basically listening to a native English speaker
Okay.
and repeating everything they say, including their filler words.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it helps you internalize the natural rhythm and flow of spoken English,
I see.
including how and where native speakers use fillers.
So it's like you're mimicking their speaking style.
Right.
What else?
Another exercise is called pause practice.
Pause practice.
Yeah, this one is all about consciously replacing your usual fillers with silence.
Oh, okay. So instead of saying, you just pause.
Exactly.
Sounds a little awkward.
It can be at first,
Uh-huh.
but it really helps you get more comfortable with those brief moments of silence.
So it's like training yourself to be okay with not filling every gap.
Exactly.
What about getting feedback from others?
Oh, yeah, that's always helpful. You could ask a friend or language partner to listen to you speak and just point out when you're using a lot of fillers.
Okay, that takes some courage,
It does.
but it could be really valuable.
It could?
And if you're really serious about reducing your filler word usage,
Yeah.
you could set a specific goal for yourself.
Like what kind of goal?
Well, if you notice that you're using a filler every other sentence, maybe try to reduce that to 1 or 2 fillers per paragraph
Right.
and track your progress over time.
That's a good idea.
Okay, so those are some great exercises. Now, what are some common mistakes people make with filler words?
Well, one of the biggest mistakes is relying too heavily on a single filler.
Okay.
Like if you say in almost every sentence,
Yeah.
it can become really distracting for the listener.
Like a broken record.
It is. So try to vary your fillers or, even practice those silent pauses.
Right. Mix it up a bit.
Exactly. What's another mistake?
Sometimes people use fillers as a crutch.
Okay. What do you mean by that?
Well, they might not have the vocabulary they need to express themselves clearly, or they're just not sure what to say next.
So instead of trying to find the right words, they just fill the space with or.
I see.
But in those cases, it's better to focus on expanding your vocabulary
Okay.
and practicing how to articulate your thoughts more directly.
So the fillers shouldn't be a substitute for actual content.
Exactly.
Any other pitfalls to watch out for?
Yeah, even if you are using fillers speaking in a monotone voice,
Okay.
can still make you sound unengaging.
Right, because it's not just about the words, it's about the delivery.
Exactly.
You got to bring some energy.
You do.
So how can we take our filler word game to the next level?
Well, one way is to combine fillers with signposting language.
Signposting language.
Yeah, like instead of just saying, you could say something like, the next thing I want to talk about. Yeah.
Oh, I see. So you're giving the listener a little preview of what's coming next.
Right.
And you're still buying yourself some thinking time.
Exactly.
What's another strategy?
You can also use fillers for emphasis.
Oh, okay. How
Yeah.
does that work?
Well, imagine saying, actually, that's a really great point.
Yeah.
That actually adds a bit of weight to what you're saying.
Right. It highlights the importance.
It does.
And believe it or not, practicing tongue twisters can actually help with filler words.
Really?
Yeah, because it improves your articulation
Okay.
and makes you more confident in your ability to pronounce words clearly.
I see.
And when you're not struggling to find the right sounds,
Yeah,
you might be less likely to use fillers.
that makes sense.
So it all comes back to feeling comfortable and confident in your speaking.
It does.
Wow, this has been a really eye-opening deep dive into the world of filler words. It's amazing how much there is to think about.
It is.
And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that these little words and sounds,
Yeah.
they're not the enemy.
No, they're not.
They can actually be really helpful tools if we use them consciously and strategically.
Absolutely.
And as we've learned, they can even be a sign that we're thinking in English, which is a good thing. So keep practicing, keep observing how native speakers use fillers in different situations, and most importantly, keep speaking. And as you go about your day, try paying attention to your own filler word choices. What are your go-to fillers, and how do they come across to others?
That's a good question.
It's something to think about. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the fascinating world of filler words. We'll see you next time on Speak More Fluently.